Imagine standing before a vast army, outnumbered, outmatched, with no hope except one. You drop to your knees, lift your hands, and call upon the only one who can turn the impossible around. This isn't just a story. This is the power of prayer. And throughout the Bible, we've seen men and women use it as a weapon to shake heaven and earth. Elijah was one man against an entire nation of idol worshippers. But when he prayed, fire fell from heaven. One moment, the prophets of Baal mocked him. The next, they were silenced by a blazing inferno proving that Yahweh is the only true God. Imagine standing there, feeling the heat of that fire, knowing that prayer just changed the course of history. Then there's Daniel, thrown into a den of hungry lions. He didn't panic. He prayed, and instead of becoming their dinner, he spent the night untouched because an angel shut their mouths. Can you picture the shock on the king's face the next morning when Daniel stepped out unharmed? Prayer didn't just protect him. It made the impossible possible. And what about Hannah? She was mocked, humiliated, childless, but she poured out her soul before God. Her whispered prayers in the temple seemed insignificant until God answered. And that answer? Samuel, one of the greatest prophets in history. One prayer shifted generations. King Jehoshaphat faced a war he couldn't win. 3 enemy nations surrounded him. But instead of sharpening swords, he called a prayer meeting. And as they worshipped, their enemies turned against each other. No swords, no strategy, just prayer. The battlefield was filled with defeated enemies, but Jehoshaphat's people, they just collected the blessings. Paul and Silas were chained in a prison cell, beaten and bleeding. But at midnight, they prayed and worshiped. And suddenly, an earthquake. Doors flung open. Chains fell off. And not just for them. Every prisoner was set free. One moment of prayer broke every chain in that prison. Imagine the guards' fear, the prisoners' shock. Moses, he lifted his staff. But before that, he lifted his voice to God. And the Red Sea parted. Esther, she called for a fast and prayed before approaching the king, and that prayer saved an entire nation. Even Jesus himself, the Son of God, spent nights in prayer. Before choosing his disciples, before facing the cross, he prayed. And in Gethsemane, as he wrestled with the weight of the world, he prayed so intensely that his sweat became drops of blood. That prayer won our salvation. The power of prayer isn't just in the past. It's for you right now. When you pray, you're not just speaking words. You're calling on the same God who shut lions' mouths, parted seas, and shook prison walls. So what battle are you facing? What storm is raging in your life? Pray, because when you do, heaven moves. And if you want more faith-building, powerful stories like this, make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next.